Without further ado, I need to introduce you to my next guest, because the topic we're going to be talking about is ex-racing greyhounds. This is Susan McKeon. Good evening, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi there, Nando and Donna. How are you?
We're good, thank you.
Yeah, very well. How are you?
I'm really good, but you've obviously taken the sunny weather back with you now, Nando, after last weekend. It's gone a bit cool here, but that is welcome for the dogs, especially for my greyhounds.
So, you're back into... You've had your summer now, is it? It's all done and dusted?
Well, I don't know, actually. They are predicting it's going to be quite warm again next week. So,
What do they know?
It's been rather nice.
What do they know? I don't believe it. Now, we're talking ex-greyhound, or ex-racing greyhounds, not just ex-greyhounds. So, this is quite a controversial thing again, isn't it? Because something that I learned off of you last time that we saw each other is that not all greyhounds or ex-racing greyhounds are abused by their trainers, are they? Because that's something that a lot of people kind of think.
They do. I mean, as with anything, bad news sells papers, and I'm not saying that there aren't bad greyhound trainers out there. No doubt there are, just as there are bad pet dog owners. But I wanted to see for myself, because I work with lots of greyhounds, and I did some work experience at a racing kennel, and I went in with, expecting it to be pretty bleak, to be honest, and actually my perceptions were challenged, but perhaps not in the way that you would imagine. It really wasn't as bleak as people would have had you believe. The dogs were incredibly well looked after. Yes, it wasn't the lifestyle of a pet dog, but this particular trainer, the dogs had a canine massage therapist who came out every fortnight to see them and work on any muscle aches and strains. They were regularly checked every day and handled in a very humane way. I never saw any rough handling, and they certainly came first over and above the humans in that environment.
Well, wow. Do you know, that for me, when I heard you talk about that, I thought that was brilliant. We need more of that kind of information. I know that the bad news sells, but we need to turn that on its head. That's what's wrong with this poxy world, Let's talk about what's wrong. Let's put the world to rights. No, but, Well,
that's PR for you, and that's my other job. So, yeah, it is, it is. It's what sells papers and what people, believe. And, yes, there is good and bad, but often it's the good that doesn't get seen. And certainly, as I've said, the trainer that I worked with said you never hear about the time that the trainer goes without things to make sure that the dogs are well looked after. But you're right, true. It's a really controversial sport, and I think anything where gambling is involved, naturally there's going to be controversy.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Now, here's a controversial question for you. What is your view on the actual racing of greyhounds?
I'm actually on the fence. I have been to greyhound racing, but I wouldn't miss it if it wasn't there tomorrow. So I would like to say I'm neither for nor against, but what I can say is I have actually been behind the scenes at a racing track because I was given a temporary licence by the Greyhound Board of Great Britain, who are the people who regulate the regulated tracks in the UK. There are some that are unregulated. So I actually got to see how the greyhounds were handled behind the scenes, and that again was equally fascinating, with a number of checks that the hounds went under for, health, their gait. There was a vet health check before they went into their kennels, a vet health check in the paddock, a health check when they came off the track. So it was very interesting.
See, I've got to say, I'm slightly off tangent here. That sounds like there's more checks there than there is in showing.
Well, do you know what? I mean, I can't really comment that much on showing because I don't really know that much about it, as in it's not something that particularly appeals to me. But certainly the track I was at, it was Nottingham. When you came in with the greyhounds, the greyhound was, first of all, their ear tattoos were checked to make sure it was the right greyhound, so there were no ringers. Then their microchip was checked. Then they were weighed. Because they can only be 1 kilo difference between their last racing weight and this present racing weight. Obviously, you don't want a dog that's weighed down or been given a loaf of bread, as you know, the rumours are, it used to happen. Then you took them through to their sort of air-conditioned kennel area, and you walked them down to the vet, who gave them a check. And they went into their kennel, where they have plenty of room to stand up and move around. And they're actually, I suppose the controversial thing is they're locked into the kennel, but that's to prevent any tampering, obviously, prior to a race. You get your dog ready for the race. The vet checked again out in the paddock. You take them out onto the track. They're in the traps literally for a number of seconds, and then obviously they race, and at the end of the race there's the vet to check them again, particularly if there have been any injuries. They're taken back into the paddock, and that's where the trainer or the person who's helping will check the dog over, wash their face, wash their feet, make sure that they have some water. And then they are popped back into their kennels for a minimum of 15 minutes, and that's to ensure that if there were any post-racing difficulties, that they would show up within those 15 minutes and they could be treated by the vet. So it's not a case of that you've run the race and then you take your dog straight back to your racing kennels.
It makes a lot of sense, I've got to say. Now, one of the questions that I know that will be on a lot of listeners' lips is, ex-racing greyhounds, are they going to make decent pets? Because, they've spent their entire life kennelled, and when they do come out of the kennel, they're doing 400 miles an hour. Is that the kind of dog that is going to fit in well in a household?
Believe it or not, yes. I mean, I'm as you know, Nando, I'm a complete sight hound fanatic. But yeah, surprisingly, they do fit in really well. I think it's a real testament to the breed that they adapt so well to life in a family home. Typically, I mean, you said, they're 400 miles per hour. They're 45 miles per hour couch potatoes. Half the time, they sleep more than my cat, my 3 greyhounds. So, they adapt really well. The thing that you have to take into consideration, and again, it differs from hound to hound, is that they've never been in a home environment. Their life has revolved around, in most cases, the racing kennels, going to the track, racing, coming back to the racing kennels, and their life in the UK follows a very set routine, and they're generally kennelled in pairs. So they won't have seen things like stairs, TVs, they won't have seen other breeds of dogs, but most of them, with the right training and, and consistent and certainly a force-free approach, they will adapt really well.
Very good. Now you did mention something there that rang a little bell in my head, and you said something about they sleep more than your cat. Now that surprises me, because surely that little fluffy thing that they chase around the track represents your cat. Do you not find that it's a dangerous position that you're putting these animals in?
No, not at all. I mean, again, that's one of the sort of common myths about greyhounds, that they can't live with cats or house rabbits or chickens. And whilst certainly there will be some greyhounds that will have a very high prey drive, and I have one like that in my greyhound-only classes at present, not all of them are like that. With using sort of impulse control training, you can certainly train a greyhound to live with a cat. I mean, one of mine came ready cat trained, because we got her from her previous owner who had cats. The second one, Stevie, was cat trainable, and it took a lot of time and patience with Stevie, but basically using, the leave it sort of option of when you don't look at the cat, treats rain from the sky, but you look at the cat, all the good stuff stops. And that really worked. I mean, it's not quite as simple as that, but that worked really well with Stevie. And then Jasper joined us a couple of years ago, and surprisingly, he needed very little training. He was just so laid back. He would sniff her and go, okay. So, I mean, again, it depends very much on the hound, but most of the rescue organisations in the UK will be able to advise you whether the greyhound that, if you're interested in one, is cat-friendly or not.
Do you see greyhounds hunting in the UK at all? Because in Spain we have the Spanish version, which is the galgo, and they're hunting dogs here.
No, not so much in the UK. I mean, sometimes they are used in coursing, as in illegal hare coursing, which, as I've said, is illegal. There are some coursing clubs, that are through the national lurcher organisation. But no, we don't have the same thing as the galgos in the hunting. And obviously I have seen and read quite a lot about the plight of the galgos in Spain and how they're just seen as completely disposable by the hunters who use them.
Oh, don't even get me started. But again,
I've seen all the pictures. Galgos del Sol do.
Yes.
And a lot of the organisations do a fantastic job.
And they do. But again, there are always two sides, as you've said with the racing.
Yeah.
There are some very good owners here as well. And there was a big article recently about, some of the owners sort of fought back and said, we're not all like that. So...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's good, and they should. Again, this is me now, without somebody who, my other job's PR and marketing, I've only ever seen the negative side of what happens to the galgos. But, if I were in Spain, hopefully I would see the other side as well.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say there's a lot of happy galgos that are floating about the country, not just... again, it doesn't make good news, does it? There's galgo really relaxing on sofa, chilling with cats.
I have got photos of my greyhounds chilling with the cat, actually.
I don't deny it. I don't disbelieve you at all. Now, you mentioned something a little bit earlier on, and you said greyhound-only classes.
Yeah.
Pray tell, what are you talking about, woman?
Well, I am talking about some classes that I run under Happy Hounds Dog Training, which is my own business, and they are for X-racing greyhounds. Normally I wouldn't do a breed-specific class. Most breeds will work very well together, but as I said a little earlier, a lot of X-racing greyhounds have come out of a very, I suppose, institutionalised existence and environment and may find the world a little bit scary to cope with. And certainly going to a class full of other breeds of dogs for a large number of X-racing greyhounds would be a little too much in the early stages of when they're beginning to cope with, everything that modern life with a modern family throws at them.
Sorry, I was going to say, coming out of that world, they're coming out a little bit scared, a little bit fearful.
Yeah.
That surely means that positive type training is the only way forward.
Certainly. It really is. And, it's something I believe very, very strongly and passionately about with greyhounds and with any dog. It is completely force-free. And it's also... one of the things that I work on a lot in the classes are confidence building with the greyhounds. And that involves elements of trick training, some of the really simple sort of tricks.
Good girl.
It involves scent work, finding cheese. Because if you have a dog that's a little afraid of the world, but they understand sort of find it, and you throw a bit of cheese on the ground, and they're snuffling for cheese on the ground while the scary thing potentially goes by, that's, a good sort of management technique for people to use. But as you know, Nando, we met at the BAT instructors course. I also incorporate a bit of BAT into classes, so showing people how to deal with sort of reactivity on walks, and the force-free methods of doing that. And then the other key things are recall, because my classes take place inside a fully enclosed horse arena. So it means for a lot of the greyhounds that come to class and their owners, it's the first time the greyhound has been let off the lead, and we work on recall in a safe environment. So they're really interesting classes. I mean, it's a course I've wanted to run for a while, but it isn't your traditional training class of, sit, stand, down. There's a lot more to it than that.
Do you get a lot of people coming into your class for the first time that's really scared to let their greyhound off the lead? Yeah, you do. I've had some lovely comments from people who've said, wow, this is the first time I've seen my greyhound off lead and do a recall. I mean, obviously it's in an environment where there aren't the distractions that there would be outside, but it's putting those foundations in place and allowing the hounds to have some time off lead, because they're just, when they do run, they're amazing to watch. They're so graceful and so quick. It's incredible, and they're happy. Doing what they love to do. That's what they like to do. They like to run, have the zoomers in a mad few minutes.
Right. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But if people want to find out more information about X-Racing Greyhounds or about the work that you do with them, where can they find that info out?
Oh, they can find it in different places, but my website is www.happyhoundstraining.co.uk, or they can follow me on Twitter at Sukisu, which is SUKESU.
Say that again. On what?
On Twitter.
Yeah, but what was your handle?
Oh, at Sukisu, so it's SUKESU.
Sukisu. I'm a man. I've got to try and to take levels and do computer stuff.
No. He's got a limit of 50 words, is what he means.
I actually thought she said "sexy Sue." I was like,
I thought he piqued his interest.
it's a little bit out there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know me well, but no, I wouldn't quite have a handle like that on Twitter. That's for sure.
Fantastic.
Should go and change
There's
it
some
now.
serious marketing for you.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Listen, Sexy Sue, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Will you join us again in the future?
I most certainly will, Nando. Yeah, great to speak to you, and lovely to speak to you too, Donna.
I've got one comment that's just come in before you run away. This is from Dawn. She says, loving the talk on greyhounds. I think they're amazing dogs who do fit well into family life. I've had several friends who rescue greyhounds and they find them so loving. Love the idea of the greyhound-only classes to help them readjust to life outside of racing and use the positive reinforcement training. So there you go. You're doing good work, Sue. Keep it up.
I will do. Thanks ever so much, Nando.
There you go. Take care.
care.
Bye-bye. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was Susan McKeon coming to you live from the UK.